Europe changed the rules on American travelers this year, and most people planning a trip right now have no idea how much. Three sets of letters are behind all of it: ETIAS, EES, UK ETA. Most travelers have heard all three and assume they are roughly the same thing. They are not. One became a hard requirement in February, and without it you will be turned away at check-in before you ever reach the plane. Another switched on in April and changed every European border overnight, causing queues that reached 6 hours across the continent this summer. And the third one has not launched at all, even though websites are charging travelers for it today. If you are flying to Europe in the next few months, mixing these up is exactly how people end up stranded at passport control, missing connections, or paying for a document that does not exist. So here is what each rule actually is, what it costs, and when it applies to you. Let's begin with the one that stops you before you even reach the airport. Number 8. Americans now need approval before boarding a flight to Britain. Flying to Britain used to be simple. Show up with a valid passport and you were on the plane. That ended this year, and a lot of people still have not heard about it. Since late February, every American going to the United Kingdom as a visitor needs an approved electronic travel authorization before boarding. It is not a visa. It is a short online form that most people finish in under 10 minutes. Enforcement here is absolute. Airlines must check your approval before you board, and nobody makes exceptions at the airport. Without it, you are not getting on the flight, the train, or the ferry. Check-in staff will simply turn you away. Cost is £20 per person, roughly $25, and it lasts 2 years with unlimited trips. Everyone needs their own, including children, so a family of 4 pays around £80. If your application is denied, the money is not returned. Watch out for one thing. Some websites charge far more than the real price and give you nothing extra for it. Only 2 places are genuine: the official UK government website and the official UK app, which scans your passport chip for you. The fix: apply through the official app or government website at least a week before you fly. Most approvals come back within minutes, though some take up to 3 working days. Britain is sorted. What changed across the rest of Europe is much bigger. Number 7. The passport stamp is gone and your face replaced it. If you have been to Europe before, your passport is probably full of stamps, each one marking a country, a date, a trip you still remember. Those stamps no longer happen for short visits. Back in April, Europe switched on a new border system across all 29 Schengen countries. This is the EES, the entry-exit system, and it swapped the stamp for a digital record. The first time you cross a European border now, an officer scans your passport, takes a photograph of your face, and records 4 of your fingerprints. Nothing to apply for, nothing to pay. It simply happens at the border whether you expected it or not. Your registration lasts 3 years. That first crossing takes longer than you are used to, usually 3 to 7 extra minutes per person. Every trip after that within those 3 years moves faster because the system only needs to match your face against what it already has. Anyone who has crossed European borders for decades will notice the difference immediately. The officer at the booth is no longer just checking a document. The fix: expect your first European entry since April to take longer than any trip you have made before, and plan your arrival day around that instead of assuming the old pace. A few extra minutes per person sounds harmless. What it did to Europe's airports this summer is genuinely hard to believe. Number 6. Border waits have reached 6 hours at major airports. Add several minutes of processing to every non-European passenger arriving at a busy airport, all at once, during peak summer. The system broke. Travelers at major European airports reported waits of 4 and 5 hours at passport control this summer. Airport industry groups recorded queues of 3.5 hours during busy periods. The International Air Transport Association warned that waits could hit 6 hours at the busiest airports. Technology is not really the problem. Border halls were never built to hold this many people for this long. Airports that used to clear travelers in 20 minutes now move at a fraction of that speed. Pressure got bad enough that European airports and airlines wrote directly to the president of the European Commission in July, warning the rollout had reached a critical point. 9 countries asked the EU to ease the checks. Some airports were temporarily allowed to skip the fingerprint step entirely just to clear the backlog. Flights have departed without passengers who were still stuck in border lines and could not reach the gate in time. The fix: Entering Europe for the first time since April means blocking out the first several hours after landing. No tight train connections, no timed tours, nothing on a schedule. Some airports are far worse than others. One in particular can end your trip before it starts. Number 5. One airport can wreck your connection. Changing planes in Paris? This point matters more than anything else in this video. Charles de Gaulle has been the worst affected major airport in Europe since the new system began. The terminal handling most arrivals from the United States has been moving travelers at roughly a third below the speed it was built for. Waits at passport control have averaged around 2 hours, and on bad afternoons, they have gone past 4. Part of the trouble is technical. Automated gates that used to speed things up for American and British passport holders did not work with the new system at first. Every non-European arrival got pushed into manual lanes never designed for that many people. Here is what that means in practice. A 90-minute layover in Paris used to be perfectly safe. It is not anymore, at least not for a first crossing under the new system. Travel advisors now suggest a minimum of 3 hours for any Paris connection that goes through passport control. Brussels, Amsterdam, Madrid, Rome, and Barcelona have all had serious delays too. Spanish airports reported processing times climbing by as much as 70% at peak hours. The fix: book at least 3 hours between flights for any European connection that requires passport control. If you already booked something tighter, look at changing it now rather than hoping. Halfway through, and if this is proving useful, take 2 seconds and subscribe. Most travelers only discover these changes while they are standing in the line. The next 4 include one free tool almost nobody is using. Number 4. A free app can shorten your time at the border. While European airports were struggling with queues, the European Union quietly released something that helps. Barely anyone has noticed it. It is called the Travel to Europe, and it costs nothing. You submit your passport details and a photograph of your face up to 72 hours before you arrive. By the time you reach the border, part of your registration is already done, which cuts the time you spend at the booth. 2 honest limits are worth knowing. It does not let you skip the border, and it does not put you in a faster line. All it does is shorten your own processing. And not every country has adopted it yet, so it depends where you land. Brussels has been pushing member states to roll it out more widely, exactly because of this summer's queue problems. Coverage is growing, just slowly. For an older traveler standing in a long line after an overnight flight, shaving even a few minutes off is worth the 5 minutes it takes to set up. The fix: check whether your arrival airport supports the Travel to Europe app and submit your details in the 72 hours before you fly. That one helps you at the border. The next one can stop you at the border completely. Number 3. The 90-day rule now catches you automatically. Americans can visit Europe without a visa for 90 days out of any 180-day period. Nothing new about that rule. What changed is that Europe can now count those days perfectly. Under the old system, an officer had to flip through a passport full of stamps and work out how long you had been there. Stamps smudged, pages filled up, days got missed. Someone who went slightly over often passed through without anyone noticing. Every entry and exit is now tracked digitally. Overstays get detected automatically, with no grace period built in. Even 1 day past your 90 can mean fines, refused entry, or a ban covering all 29 Schengen countries at once. One part of this catches almost everybody, so let me be very clear. Leaving Europe for a few days does not reset your 90-day count. The 180-day window rolls continuously backward from whatever day you are on. A quick trip to London or Istanbul in the middle of a long stay does not wipe the slate clean. Days spent outside the Schengen area do not count against your total, though. Britain, Ireland, and Turkey all sit outside it, so time there is separate. Retirees taking long trips through Europe should treat this as something to track carefully rather than estimate. The fix: planning a long trip or several trips in 1 year means counting your days precisely and leaving yourself a buffer. The system doing the counting now does not make mistakes in your favor. Counting days is one thing. The next one catches travelers whose passports look completely fine. Number 2. Your passport can be valid and still be refused. A particular conversation happens at check-in counters every single day. It always starts with a traveler pointing out that their passport has not expired. Europe has 2 separate requirements, and most people only know about one. One is straightforward enough. Your passport must be valid for at least 3 months beyond the day you leave the Schengen area. Not the day you arrive, the day you leave. The other catches people completely off guard. Your passport must have been issued within the last 10 years on the day you enter Europe. That sounds harmless until you look at how renewals work. When you renew before your old passport expires, the leftover months sometimes get added onto the new one, so a passport can show an expiry date comfortably in the future while having been issued more than 10 years ago. Looks perfectly valid. Under the European rule, it is not. Older travelers get caught by this more than anyone, simply because they are more likely to hold a passport that was renewed early with extra validity attached. The fix. Take out your passport and check 2 dates instead of 1, the expiry date and the issue date. If the issue date is getting close to 10 years old, renew before you book anything. And now the last one, about a system that has not launched yet, but is already taking money from travelers. Number 1. ETIAS has not launched, and sites selling it are taking your money. Back to the first set of letters from the start of this video. ETIAS is Europe's upcoming travel authorization, similar to what Britain now requires. €20, valid 3 years, covering 30 countries. Almost nobody is telling travelers the important part. It does not exist yet. For most of the past year, the official timeline pointed at the end of 2026. In July, the European Union quietly removed that target from its own website. The page now just says the system is not in operation and a date will be announced several months ahead of launch. Reporting at the same time suggested the agency building it had decided a 2026 start was no longer possible, with 2027 the realistic expectation. Why the delay? Same problem causing the border queues. The staffing and infrastructure at European borders are not ready. This matters because websites are accepting ETS applications and taking payment right now. No application portal is open, there is nothing to apply for. Any site collecting money for ETS today is charging you for a document that cannot be issued. When it finally does launch, the only official portal will sit on the European Union's own website, and there will be a transition period before it becomes mandatory. One detail worth knowing for this audience: travelers over 70 will not pay the €20 fee, though they will still need the authorization itself. The fix. Do not apply for ETS today, and do not pay anyone offering it. When it launches, use only the official European Union website. Now I'm curious, which one of these surprised you the most? Tell me in the comments. I'd love to know. And if you want your next trip to feel smoother, calmer, and more in control, make sure you subscribe. Because stress at the airport doesn't come from travel, it comes from not knowing what's really happening.